Hi, my name is Joe Rosing, and I lead worldwide business development for manufacturing solutions at AWS. Today, I'm excited to talk with you about building resilience and improving business continuity across the enterprise with AWS. Resiliency has become an increasingly common term, and so today, first we'll level set on the definition and recent trends. Then I'll walk through a few examples of what a resilient enterprise looks like with specific customer case studies. Finally, I'll end with some thoughts on the next steps you can take with AWS on your resiliency journey. Now, what do we mean by resiliency? The dictionary definition is an ability to recover from or adjust easily to adversity of change. In the context of a system or an organization, this ability occurs while also maintaining a central purpose. It's grounded in doing what is best for your customers, your people, and your organization. And so when we talk about resiliency in business operations, we're looking at a strategic priority for enabling the organization to respond quickly to dynamic conditions, be they natural disasters, pandemics, changes in customer buying behavior, product feature requests, or supply chain variation, while maintaining business continuity or that central purpose. And so the question becomes, how do we continue to focus on creating value for our customers in the face of uncontrollable market conditions or unknown variation? Now, as companies have faced this question, they've realized key changes are needed. These survey results from McKinsey highlight that while we have all experienced change over the last several months, going forward, the fundamentals of how work gets done are changing. In fact, there are very discrete ways that the resiliency of the traditional workplace model has been challenged. Our meeting cadence and structure certainly has changed, but also consider how leaders lead and interact with their employees on a day-to-day basis now. Consider how the technology systems that we're using are different given the current working conditions, and that many of our core processes all are being reevaluated for this new normal. Organizations are also rethinking the talent and skills needed in the workforce, the cultural behaviors that they are fostering, and their approach to innovation. Work is just getting done differently, and organizations are changing to follow suit, adapting to become more flexible in supporting employees and customers. Now, while there are many ways that we can build value for our customers, today we're going to focus on 3 examples where at AWS we've seen customers make improvements to operating resiliency. First, improving design and collaboration. How to ensure your teams are operating and performing at their best to develop and deliver new products and services, especially in a world of remote work. The second topic we'll cover is managing supply chain variation, both from a demand planning perspective as well as managing disruptions to supply. Having a plan for supply chain resiliency is key to driving business continuity. Third is modernizing business operations. As the nature of customer interactions have changed, many enterprises are thinking of new ways to engage and support customers to further differentiate themselves. So let's begin with collaborative design. Collaborative design has become commonplace in many industries, from gaming to media to industrial manufacturing. However, enabling efficient collaboration, especially with employees working remotely, is difficult using a traditional corporate data center infrastructure. Many of our customers found that the inflexibility of the corporate data center quickly became a heavy burden to bear. Furthermore, the data center represents a fixed cost that is often over-provisioned and poorly utilized. As a result, if companies need to adapt quickly to changing market conditions by scaling up or down, they oftentimes have limited short-term options with the cost and capacity of their data centers. Plus, to support many design workflows, the corporate data center was typically built under the assumption that systems will be run and executed on premises, and with at least the majority of users sitting in the office. As a result, effective collaboration oftentimes required local engagement to access workstation compute power or applications that traditionally have not been available remotely. Now, our customers have been able to achieve their aspirations of efficient collaborative design on a global scale by migrating to a modern cloud infrastructure on AWS. In doing so, they've realized the benefits the AWS cloud provides, especially from a resiliency perspective. The infrastructure is flexible and scalable, so there isn't a need to over-provision, and capacity management of the hardware essentially becomes automated. Systems are available anytime, anywhere, empowering employees to work efficiently, whether they are in the office or remote, and enabling greater collaboration across global teams. And it's cost-effective. With a pay-for-what-you-need model, enterprises are able to transition the fixed cost of the corporate data center to a variable cost and adjust accordingly given their business needs or development cycles. As an example, Samsung Engineering were challenged with how to connect to their 2D and 3D design software for customer deployments. A deployment often required employees to travel to the headquarters office in order to work with the systems, and in some cases they also needed to establish a local server infrastructure. However, using Amazon AppStream 2.0, they were able to run the software in a virtual machine and support users in accessing it from a variety of devices virtually anywhere. This implementation resulted in considerable business benefits to Samsung Engineering. They realized a 20% cost savings compared to the on-prem infrastructure. They were also able to cut deployment time from 2 months down to 7 days. And to support future business continuity, if employees could not go to the headquarters office or if they were still travel restricted, it was no longer a problem with their customers. Now, a second challenge that we've seen enterprises face is how to build resiliency in supply chain processes, and specifically, how to manage increasing demand and supply variation. Through a number of surveys, companies have reported experiencing supply chain disruptions over the past year, and know that this poses a significant risk to their business. Over half of companies surveyed have experienced a reduction in consumer demand, while in some industries demand has skyrocketed. In fact, we've talked with a number of customers who have basically turned off their traditional demand planning methodology or demand planning systems because they simply were incapable of sending the right signals given the demand variation they were experiencing. Additionally, as capacity has been constrained around the world, the supply base has been impacted, leading to over a 2x increase in lead times for some materials. This obviously leaves a time gap in material availability, which further impacts the supply chain downstream, but also calls into question the amount of inventory or safety stock that is required. And with sudden changes in inventory planning, this can potentially also create a bullwhip effect throughout the supply chain, further causing additional problems throughout the entire value chain. However, despite these challenges, nearly half of the companies surveyed don't have a plan in place to adequately address supply disruptions. So how can AWS help? Well, to improve supply chain resiliency, we've seen customers come to AWS really with a focus on 4 solution areas. First is how to improve real-time visibility into what is happening throughout the supply chain. With improved transparency to changing lead times and material availability, the sooner you know of a disruption, the sooner you can execute a plan to address it. The second solution area that customers have been coming to us with is how to scale predictive analytics, and more specifically, how to land insights from those predictive analytics into an existing workflow to simplify execution. While real-time transparency into the supply chain helps, predictive analytics refocuses the enterprise on what is going to happen tomorrow and how we will proactively address the challenges, versus looking at what happened yesterday and discussing how we're going to catch up following the disruption. The third solution area is that customers have looked for solutions that leverage existing systems as much as possible. This mitigates risk, and it also the improvement processes. Many companies have already made significant investments in technology and capability. We don't want to create waste with a rip and replace model, but instead, we want to look at how we can augment current capabilities with new technology. And the fourth solution area is that many companies are looking for ways to make it easier to implement artificial intelligence or machine learning technology into current processes to drive improvement. As you may have seen from earlier reInvent sessions, AWS is focused on democratizing artificial intelligence and machine learning, making it easier for companies to take advantage of the benefits of machine learning, even if they don't have significant data science expertise. So, how has AI/ML been implemented to improve supply chain resiliency? As an example, I offer More Retail. More Retail is a pioneer in omni-channel food and grocery retail in India, and their mission is to be the Indian consumer's preferred choice for food and grocery needs. To achieve this mission, More Retail has 22 hypermarkets and 624 supermarkets across India. These are supported by a network of 13 distribution centers, 7 fruit and vegetable collection centers, and 6 processing centers. However, they were increasingly challenged by inconsistent order management from the individual stores. This variation resulted in high levels of inventory shrink, which in More Retail's case meant food wastage. It also led to incorrect inventory placement, where they would have excess inventory in one store but stockouts in another, and this ultimately impacted business and customer satisfaction. More Retail decided to focus on improving in-stock availability of fresh produce while also minimizing waste. To accomplish this, they worked with a consulting partner, Gannett, to build and deploy a demand forecasting and automated ordering system built around the AWS machine learning service, Amazon Forecast. They applied Amazon Forecast to the top 20% of SKUs that represented about 80% of revenue, and were able to train the model across thousands of items. As a result, the model improved forecast accuracy from 27% to 76%. By implementing machine learning into their demand planning process, they also reduced fresh produce waste by 20% and improved gross margin. Ultimately, they were able to better serve the customers with lower stockout rates of fresh produce and are now expanding the model to other categories as well. Now, we've all experienced over the past year how many fundamentals of business operations have changed. And with this, there are entirely new infrastructure requirements to support current working conditions or new processes that were put in place. Plus, new workplace safety guidelines have been implemented and iterated on to account for employee health and well-being. In many cases, these guidelines require technology in order to be implemented and complied with at scale. Additionally, for nearly all enterprises, the way we interact with customers has changed, both in how we meet with and engage customers, as well as how we execute delivery of products and services. At AWS, we've seen customers quickly adapt to these changing conditions by focusing on 4 areas. First, customers have looked to optimize processes by automating as much of their IT infrastructure and processes as possible. Second, customers are innovating with new contactless technologies to improve how tasks get done. Examples include Amazon Polly, which converts text into spoken audio, or Amazon Lex, which builds conversational interfaces into any application using voice or text. Basically, any technology that will help avoid touch or exchanging of germs. Third is customers have put a focus on putting in place the required infrastructure and tools to better enable the remote workplace. Everyone still wants to be effective while working remotely, and technology should be improving worker efficiency, not inhibiting it. And finally, customers have leveraged the events of this past year as an opportunity to redefine customer service, improve the customer experience, and in doing so, establish new differentiation. Now, a great example of how enterprises have adapted business operations quickly to better serve customers is in the restaurant industry, where many restaurants have had to shift to 100% takeout orders very quickly. Many of us have now experienced having to order food from our favorite restaurant to be picked up or delivered instead of being able to dine in. And initially, this wasn't always a smooth experience. Orders would arrive late, the food would be mixed up, sometimes it was difficult to even get an order placed to begin with. Well, on the other side of that interaction, many restaurants were scrambling to reshape their business to this new customer behavior. No longer were customers coming in to fill a dining room served by a friendly waitstaff. Instead, customers were calling in to place orders with a staff that had to basically become customer service agents overnight. Take Margarita's Restaurant, a small restaurant serving Mexican food. They were simply unprepared to handle a massive increase in call volumes. As a result, customers were experiencing busy tones and calls were dropping left and right. Margarita's Restaurant's strength is in making great Mexican food. They are not technology experts, but with the help of partner BizCloud experts, they were able to fully migrate their takeout ordering system to Amazon Connect in just 2 days. Margaritas found the technology extremely easy and reliable, and immediately saw a response from both their customers' feedback and orders. On day one, they saw a 91% increase in total orders, topping most of what they had sold previously during the pandemic. They also saw an 87% decrease in order complaints and simplified call handling to the point that eventually they were able to eliminate the need for headsets to handle orders. Now, in each of the examples we walked through today, you've seen how a modern cloud architecture is critical to building resiliency in your workflows and enabling the future workplace. And in many ways, these capabilities go back to the foundations of which AWS was built on. Our services were really designed for resiliency from the start, taking concepts such as redundancy, high availability, and security to new levels. With AWS, you can achieve the flexibility and scalability your business needs to adapt to fluctuating demands. This is a key benefit, not only from an infrastructure standpoint, but also to enable innovation and business growth. Additionally, AWS can help your teams improve collaboration, empowering a global and remote workforce to do their best work. And finally, AWS can also help improve workflow performance and do so in a cost-effective way. And finally, I'd like to end on a point of optimism. Disruptions that are outside of our control will continue to happen. But as Jeff Bezos says, with every one new thing, there come 2 new questions and 2 new opportunities. And we're seeing companies leverage the experience earned and lessons learned from these disruptions to consider the opportunities that the cloud can present in making the enterprise more resilient, flexible, and capable. And all this in an effort to better serve and delight their customers. Now, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to follow up after the session. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Please remember to complete the session survey and enjoy the rest of reInvent.